Hello BookTube. We're continuing with this completely useless library tour of mine, and we are in this awkward corner bookcase that's tall and narrow and crammed full of books. But even though it is crammed full of books, I think we can get through all of this in this video. So I don't have to deal with this awkward bookcase anymore. I'm pretty sure that we can if we keep in mind one thing. One key thing from previous bookshelf tours will get us through this in record time, 30 minutes at the most. And that is to remember that I really, really like New Yorker cartoons, the cartoons that have appeared for 100 years in the New Yorker magazine. I really, really like them. I like their individual artists, and I like the combination, the whole mosaic of New Yorker cartoons. I just think they're incredible. They are a sweet spot of mine. I just love them. If we keep that point in mind, I think we can get through these three shelves in one video. So first we'll do with the Transwise books. This is by Berta and Elmer Hader. This is The Big Snow, a great old kids book about snow coming at long last. A bit of a historical curiosity. There was snow in the air yesterday here in Boston. It's 50 degrees now. It's long gone. No one even remembers it. It just happened yesterday. Then we have two Prince Valiant books. The Perilous Voyage and Prince Valiant Fights Attila the Hun. Two of these hardcover collections of Prince Valiant. They're expanded. They've got plenty of prose, and these were part of a series that I've only ever found these two so far. Somebody had to love these. Somebody put library jackets on them. I feel fairly certain that that somebody probably had more than just these two, so maybe the Brattle will provide. I would certainly love them. I'm a big fan of Prince Valiant. Then we have this huge thing. This is a gigantic, oversized thing. It has a sheet of paper in it. Let's see what that is. Let's see what you are. All right, so this was from 2019, and this is a huge atlas of Boston history. Just a great big thing with timelines and photographs and geographic, maps of where the city expanded and how. Just a fantastic thing. Not along the lines of, we saw the other day, we saw Boston Topographical History, and we've seen a couple of others, and there are other Boston histories. This is, people often ask me, what is a one-volume thing that I should get? A one-volume work of Boston history. And I would recommend this, but it was, well, first of all, it's gigantic. There's my beloved city. Look at that. I know everything there is to know about every inch of ground you're seeing there. Let's get back to that sheet of paper. This is not only enormous, but it was $40 when it came out. And who knows if it's still in print or is more collectible than that. So I can't recommend this one, but I love it myself. Then we have a group of oversized comic books from once upon a time, ye olden days, when big Marvel Treasury editions were done, and DC Comics also did these very much larger, oversized comics that really don't fly anymore. Once upon a time, though, they were a fascinating thing to get. I got a lot of them at the dry goods store. I told the guy who ran the dry goods store used to ask my opinion a lot about books. He would get sheets and catalogs, order sheets and catalogs for books, and also for comic books. And I was his best customer when it came to printed words and material like that. But he often wanted to know, what is this? I've got a new listing for something. A Marvel Treasure edition of The Amazing Spider-Man. It's kind of pricey. I don't picture the kids in the neighborhood buying it. I don't know where I'd put it. We had conversations like that now where I would say, well, it's oversized, but it will fit in the back rack of your magazine section, and it will poke out so people will be able to see it, and maybe comic book fans will want it, even though it is more expensive. So these are rather battered, but I have quite a few of them that we'll just force march our way through. This feels like it has something inside it. Oh, it does have something inside it. Right, well, it has an asterisk volume inside it, which it certainly shouldn't have. This is Conan the Barbarian. This is what I mean, just an oversized thing. This is not one of the first ones. This is $1.50. Then we have the Legion of Superheroes, my beloved Legion of Superheroes. We've seen this cover twice now. This is the original. This is where Mike Grell did it. This is just a reprint volume of the great Mordru story, but he decided to do an original cover. So this was, when it came out, $1, which was 5 comic books, but I didn't hesitate at all. I didn't hesitate to get it. The idea that you could get a Legion reprint that was not just an issue of Adventure Comics was amazing. Then there were occasional attempts that DC made to do these larger size formats again. And I thought that was intriguing. They're a little bit impractical, but I thought it was intriguing, so I got a lot of them, including they did 4 of their great archetypal characters. The Holy Trinity of DC Comics, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and also the marquee character of a company that DC bought, and that is Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel. And I have the one here. They're all painted by Alex Ross. This is the Wonder Woman volume, which is all the flashback sequences are in a kind of sepia tone, and then the book itself is in glorious Technicolor. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. They are self-contained stories, and they are terrific. And they were also collected into a volume that is much smaller and much more convenient. Then we have something. This was $2 and something or other. What were you? You $2, I think. This was from eons ago. This is Superman versus Wonder Woman. With Uncle Sam watching on. This is the battle you never thought you'd see. There they are fighting with each other. I got this mainly because of Garcia Lopez's artwork, which is just amazing. Even now, even during this book, it was amazing. The concept is a little strange, and of course, it's not canonical. Not in the real sense of the word, because this was when there was a multiverse in the DC universe. Who knows if there is one now? I have no idea. But this takes place on Earth 2. So this is not the Superman and Wonder Woman that you would see in other DC comics. It still works, and this was done in the 70s, so it wasn't quite the world that we see today, as you can tell by the fact that Wonder Woman is getting ready to scratch his eyes out. She's as strong as he is. But still a fun story in its own way. Still a fun story. Really dumb stuff in it. Then we get to some of the real Marvel Treasury editions, the real early ones, that were $1.50 and beautifully done. This is Conan the Barbarian. This incredible Barry Windsor Smith cover there, or is that Gil Kane inked by Barry Windsor Smith? Don't know that you're going to tell me. Well, it hardly matters. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And then we have the Mighty Avengers with an original Jack Kirby cover on the front and an original Jack Kirby cover on the back. Just fantastic. Just incredible. Now, there's very little in the way of original material in these things except for the covers, unless an artist could be prevailed upon to give a kind of a pinup. That pinup is not original. But some of them are. Like, for instance, this one, my most battered one, as you could probably tell, The Mighty Thor. This is the 3rd Marvel Treasury edition with a beautiful John Romita Sr. cover. Look at that. Oh, my God. John Romita Sr. never really got the memo. He never really listened to Stan Lee or anybody else when they told him that Mjolnir is not metal. Or if it is, it looks like stone. It's Uru metal, but it looks like stone. Whatever reason, the reason for that is, it is not a sleek iron-type metal, and yet Romita always draws it that way. And this has an original John Romita cover on the front here, which is just unbelievable. And then another original John Romita drawing on the back. And also in the middle of this just reprints a great big story, a fantastic story where Thor confronts Hercules and then teams up with him. But in the middle of this issue, we get a 2-page fold-out by John Buscema, who was the artist for Thor at the time that this came out. And there's our whole cast of characters. Just fantastic. Your $1.50 was well spent, because you got these great reprints and you got that original poster. Then we have Marvel Treasure Edition number 2, the Fantastic Four. Another great John Romita Sr. cover. There is our team with the Baxter Building in the background. Here we have another John Romita Sr. cover. This is just a great collection of Fantastic Four stories. Not one whole story like the Thor volume, but still. This irritated, well, I guess considering that I'm a sexy 28-year-old, it would have been my great-grandfather. It irritated him into writing a letter, typing off a letter on a manual typewriter and firing it off to Marvel Comics, saying, just because you have a super popular character doesn't mean you should forget, how you got where you are. it's inexcusable if they're going to have a run of the Marvel Treasure Edition that you didn't start with the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four is what started the Marvel revolution of comics. That letter was never printed because where would it be printed at, right? The Marvel Treasure Editions don't have letters columns. But the thing that letter writer, that young, sexy letter writer was complaining about is the fact that the very first Marvel Treasure Edition was this, Spider-Man, who was by far and away Marvel's most popular character until Wolverine showed up. And they gave this spot, the first spot, to Spider-Man instead of the Fantastic Four in order to launch the thing with good sales. Not that that little boy was objecting, because look at that John Romita Sr. cover. That is unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And a very simple thing on the back there. Peter Parker tormented by his secret identity. Just incredible. When this appeared on the newsstands, just incredible that this thing should happen. And it caught on. Marvel did these treasure editions for a long time. But like I said, DC also imitated this format much later. Decades and decades and decades later, they imitated it, including with this thing. This is by Mark Waid, and Brian Hitch did the artwork. And this is the Justice League Heaven's Ladder. A huge thing that I don't object to this at all, because the Hitch artwork is so good that you really want to sort of savor it in this bigger format where you can see all of the details. Because this is about as big as, you know, this is just a little bit smaller than the actual page that Hitch would have been drawing on at his easel. So you get all the details in the artwork. This was reprinted in a smaller paperback that I have. I love this. It's a great Justice League story. Absolutely fantastic. I've read to you many times from it. It's when Mark Waid is on his game for superhero comics, he's hard to beat. He gives you action and great beats of storytelling, but he also gives you an inner dimension. He makes you think about these characters that you've known, in this case, for 80 years. In this issue specifically, not only the great climactic moment where our team is facing off against a giant villain, but also in a meditative moment earlier on in the comic where the various Justice League members talk about what heaven is. What would their conception of the afterlife be? Aquaman has his own, of course, from his Atlantean people. Wonder Woman has her own from people who literally walk with gods. But, of course, my favorite moment was when the conversation gets down to Superman and Batman. And the Mark Waid's narrative is wonderful here. It just shows that he knows these characters really well. He says that, of course, Batman's idea of heaven would involve him being with his parents. And you might think the same thing is true of Superman, that he would be with his parents and his whole planet, which was destroyed. But instead, when we get to Superman, the characters speculate that I would imagine that for Superman, heaven is a world in which no matter what is going on, no matter what's coming, no matter what's happening next, it can wait. Because, of course, in Superman's world, it can't. That was just wonderful. I smiled about that for weeks after I first read it. Then we have another book on stately homes, on country homes and big, big rusticated piles of great places. There's each one, like Castle Howard or whether it gets its own chapter. I have a sweet spot for country homes, so I have a lot. They ought to be together. We had one on the last shelf, and on the one before it, and on the one before that. They ought to be together, but. Then we have, this is by Jane Yolen, with illustrations by John Schoner. This is Owl Moon, in which father and child go out into the woods. They're really just tramping around, but they are hoping to spot an owl. And it's a very simple story, but it works wonderfully. Then we have, this is an illustrated history of the 50-gun ship. There's the rear of the 50-gun ships. You have all sorts of diagrams and whatnot that really flesh out what these things were, how much they displaced, how many people they could fit, what they were like in actual warfare. Just a great big picture book that I think was originally meant for a certain rhyme of the Ancient Mariner up in Vermont, and I probably just kept it. Then we have this is from the Stockholm Royal Printing House. It's a lovely thing in slipcase. This is Fridtjof's Saga. So I probably got this because I was all fired up for Sagalong. And this is a translation that's mostly by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. It is wonderful, and it's heavily illustrated. I mean, all throughout. There are illustrations everywhere, all throughout this. It's the only Icelandic Saga that I have that's like this. But I really like it, so I wasn't about to give it up. Okay, then we're going to need to remember New Yorker cartoons. That will get us through this thing if we remember that. Here is, this is a collection by Lisa Donnelly. This is Very Funny Ladies, a collection of New Yorker cartoons by women. Then we have the very next thing is another, we saw this just a couple of shelves ago. This is another collection of Peter Arnold, who was a famous New Yorker cartoon. And we just get all of his cartoons, one per page, and their captions. I have an admitted sweet tooth for these kind of things. And then we have 2 volumes of Prince Valiant. One is the definitive Prince Valiant companion that has a history of the character's invention and the character's various adventures. It has Hal Foster researching and doing all of his interviews and whatnot. This is an amazing ancillary book to a love of Prince Valiant. Is that I love this character, and I have a Hal Foster biography that's absolutely terrific. I think it's in this room. Although we're running out of places where it could be, if it is, or maybe we did it already. But then we also have the publisher Prince Valiant, I believe, is still running. I believe it still is. Hal Foster has long since gone to his eternal reward, but I believe that this is still running. They get different writers and artists to do it, and those writers and artists will either, I believe they're under pretty strict orders to keep a kind of Hal Foster look to things. This is Far from Camelot, and this is Gary G. Is that his name? Gary Gianni? Okay, well, you're not going to tell me. His last name is Gianni. I think his first name is Gary. And he does the artwork all throughout here. This is just more Prince Valiant adventures. They just aren't from the golden age of Hal Foster. And then we have, to finish out this shelf, a New Yorker album of drawings, 1925 to 1975. This is the paperback. It's not just one artist. It's full of a whole bunch of them. And it sets the stage for the next shelf, which is mostly New Yorker cartoons. But there are some crosswise stuff, so we'll look at those. We've seen this already. This is the Chronicle Book. We saw the Chronicle of the Roman Republic. This is the Chronicle of the Pharaohs. These are incredibly good. Just amazingly good histories. You get pictures, maps, timelines, everything. They're just amazingly good. Let's get that out of the way here. We have The Puppy Bus, a kid's book called The Puppy Bus. I had to save this, where a boy gets on the wrong bus. He gets on a bus full of dogs. If that's not a shorthand for my own life, I don't know what is. So I thought that it deserved a place in this room. Then we have 4 issues of a Marvel miniseries called Marvels. These came out originally in these 4 issues, which were ordinary paperbacks with an acetate overlay of the cover illustration. That's what the cover was for each of these. I've gone through Marvels chapter by chapter with Matthew at Maybury Book Club, and I think Michael K. Vaughn and I think, have talked about it as well. It's a fantastic limited series. These 4 issues were collected into, single volume editions, and they will continue to be collected that way forever. It is a perennial moneymaker for Marvel Comics. But then the whole rest of this shelf is New Yorker cartoon collections, which we can burn right through. We can do this in 2 minutes. We have this huge thing. This is the complete New Yorker cartoon collection with discs. So that if I had any technology that could read discs, I could see them all, and that would have pinchable artwork. That would allow me to zoom in on little details. But this is good enough, and this is everything. Absolutely everything. Then we have, and keep in mind, it wouldn't be everything. If this were done today, this was done, 30 years ago. 30 years of New Yorker cartoons have happened since then. And if the New Yorker decided to come out with this volume today, it wouldn't be complete. Because it would be censored. The racially insensitive or dumb stuff from the 1930s would be out. It would be gone. It would be, here's a complete, except for the stuff we say doesn't belong here. So I'm glad to have this one. And then another complete thing. This is huge. This is fantastic, though. This is the complete covers. of the New Yorker. Again, this is 30 years old, but it gives you everything. So you get one cover in detail per year, and then a bunch of other covers to show you what was the zeitgeist, what were people doing and thinking about, what were the changing styles of the covers of the New Yorker. Just great. Okay, let's keep going. This is 1955 to 1965, just a thinner, more narrow focus. Thinner, more narrow focus anthology, and the good thing about these is that when the broader your focus is, if you're doing 1925 to 1975, you're going to leave out things that will be in here. You won't be doing it for censorship reasons. You'll just be thinking, let's get our more popular ones in here and leave out the rest. So the more narrow the focus, the better I like it. Which is why I like, this is 1950 to 1955. So another thing. But they're also very early on, when the New Yorker first realized that they could reprint their cartoon collections and people would buy them, they did very narrow focus things like this. This is the 1942 New Yorker album. So just all of the cartoons from that year. And here's before they even started dating them. It's just the New Yorker, the new New Yorker album. Before they started making a production number out of them. We have the new New Yorker album. This is 1925 to 1950. A huge thing. Huge collection of them. We have a duplicate. This is 1925 to 1975. This did really well for them, but I don't need two of them, that's for sure. We're just going to keep going here to get this whole shelf out of the way. This is Gardner Ray. This is Sideshow. He was a New Yorker cartoonist, and this is all his work. Delightful, delightful stuff. And then finally, for this shelf, something that you would certainly have seen coming. This is a collection of the New Yorker book of dog cartoons. There's just one dog cartoon after another with lots and lots of extra stuff. So you get lots and lots of prose. This is the classic on the internet. No one knows you're a dog. probably 3 dozen people clipped that out of the New Yorker and sent it to me when it first came out. That is this whole shelf. It's just New Yorker stuff. So we're going to plunge right on here to the bottom shelf, which has some oversized books on it here. Okay, so we have John Marsden's volume. This is the Illustrated Bead, the Venerable Bead. I got this in a trade paperback at the Brattle Bookshop, and I love it because it's not just lots and lots of bead. It's also pictures from the places where he's describing. And the trade paperback didn't last very long. I was very happy to find the hardcover. Then we have a kid's book by Lane Smith. This is called It's a Book. Can you plug it in? No, it's a book. Does it weigh a lot? No, it's a book. Does it have an audio component? No, it's a book. It's a book. That's all. It's a book. It's just the beleaguered main character, who I believe is a gorilla, is constantly fielding questions. Does it tweet? Does it Wi-Fi? Can it do this? Can it make the characters fight? No, it's a book. Then we have an old handbook of the Arnold Arboretum in Jamaica Plain neighborhood of Boston. This is very close to where I live, and this is just full of history of what it was like to put the Arnold Arboretum together, to get it to happen. Always fun to see. We have a big art book next. Do I have a slip for this? No? No. All right. This came from the Met, and I wish I did have a slip because that would have a contact on it. This is Roman portraits. This is Roman sculpture. I have a big soft spot for Roman sculpture. And this has everything. Oh, wait, it does have a sheet. Oh, fantastic. Let's set that aside. Now, wait, I just saw it. I know that I did. I wasn't imagining things here. Let's hang on a second here. I don't want to prolong the video, but I don't want to miss that. Yes, there we go. Okay, fantastic. This came out in 2016. Let's set that aside. But this has everything, and the stories behind. The stories behind not only the acquisitions, but as much as we can know about the sculptor and the time period. Exactly the sort of thing that you would get at enormous length if you were ever to walk around the antiquities wing of the Museum of Fine Arts with me, or almost anywhere in the Gardner Museum. So it's lucky that most of my guests don't have to endure that anymore. Then we have this thing. This is from DK, Dorian Kindersley. I don't know when this came out. I don't think I have a sheet for it. No. This is their illustrated Bible, story by story. And any of you who know this publisher, you know what you're getting. You're getting some of the best visual productions on the market today. This is Doran Kindersley, a DK book to have of all DK books. This is just amazing. Very much worth revisiting. And then we have, okay, well, this has become part of this room. This is a kid's book, and one thing, I got this from the publisher, and this is by David Ezra Stein. This is The Interrupting Chicken and the Elephant of Surprise. And this came, when it came from the publisher, it came with a little paddleboard with the Elephant of Surprise on it. The whole thing is a play on the fact that a little kid comes back to his parents and says, we learned in school today all about the Elephant of Surprise. But it's the child misunderstood. It's not the Elephant of Surprise, it's the Element of Surprise. But the child heard it wrong, and that doesn't seem to matter in the course of the book. We're reading about the ugly duckling, where the parent is patiently taking the child through the pages when suddenly, surprise, I'm an elephant. So the Element of Surprise is real. And then we have this thing here. This is The Art of the Bird. Oh, how funny. This is still wrapped in plastic. I had 2 copies of this. And I opened one and I read through it, and then I mailed it away. And I mailed it away without a pang because I had a second copy, but I haven't opened it because it hasn't come time for me to reread this. This is by Roger Lederer, and this is The Art of the Bird, and it's still wrapped in its plastic. Oh my, that's the only book in here that is. Okay, then we have, oh, this is fantastic. For certain fans, this is a must-have. I got this from the publisher, but I freely confess I would probably have paid money for this thing. This was from Titan Books, and it is their great book, The Centennial Celebration of Tarzan, which takes you through everything. Just everything. Huge. Look at that. That is a Boris Vallejo cover for Tarzan and the Forgotten Legion, and you don't have any of the header material. You've just got the glory of the photo in heavy detail. But not only that, you've got all these great older covers in detail, plus all the stories behind it. This is a Tarzan Volume 2 half. It really is. Oh my, look at that. Just incredible. And you can lose yourself in this volume, as I have many, many times. Learned a lot, too. I learned a lot about, like, for instance, this specific cover artist that I only knew their work. I didn't know anything about them themselves. And then we'll finish up here with this last thing. This is, I don't know if we were talking to each other when I got this. This was, no, 2019, so we would have been. This is a huge thing, also from the Met. This is The Tale of Genji, an illustrated companion to the great Tale of Genji. The first, and still the best, novel ever written. So this will take you through all of the history, not only of the period, but also the history of the book. And it also takes you through chapter by chapter of Genji itself, which is going to be the focal point for a booktube event that is ongoing, so you probably know about it. Classics and Company, Ann Novella and Micah Cummins are doing Classics and Company, one classic after another. And each time they shift to a new classic, they shift to a new special guest. We'll be talking with them about that classic at some point during the month or 6 weeks that they're reading it. And I am the special guest for The Tale of Genji later on in the year, so maybe I'll be hauling out this book again. We've seen a few Genji books on this. And there you go. I was right. Because you recognize that most of these things are New Yorker cartoon collections, and that doesn't need a huge amount of exposition on its own, we are not done with this entire problematic corner bookcase. Which is good news for some of you, because it's good news for me, because I don't have to negotiate the ergonomics here, and it's be bad news for some of the rest of you, some of you snobs, and also people who, maybe aren't snobs but like a little variety, because you're not going to get variety for the next few library tours. You might want to skip them, because I'm just going around this room. I'm not jumping or skipping anywhere. And the next bookcase is romance. Literally from floor to ceiling, romance. Literally 1,000 romance novels. So if that's not your cup of tea, I completely understand. I would urge that, since that's going to be the next few videos for this library tour, I would urge you if it's not your cup of tea, to skip those videos and also skip telling me that it's not your cup of tea or that I shouldn't be doing it. It'd be great if you just skipped all of that. But that's what's next. We're done with this corner, so I will be moving on. I don't know how I'm going to do this next bookcase because I can't talk about every one of these things. There are 1,000 books on this bookcase. I can't do that. Well, I'll figure out a way. I have 24 hours after all. But anyway, that is the corner bookcase. All these big, oversized art things. Wonderful. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.